that falsifies this, which would be perfectly a perfect example would be something chimeric like a dragonfly with a cell wall.
Think about how ridiculous
then you would have disproven the theory, or you would have at least falsified that hypothesis.
Hold on a second. You're saying to prove that people and pine cones are not related, you have to find a person with a pine cone growing out of their head.
No, actually,
that's
kind of what you're asking for us to prove. No, see, the thing is, if you wanted to prove that a pine cone and a human being are not related, you take the two things they share in common, that they're eukaryotes, and that they have certain cellular and molecular similarities. And then you take that and you form a nested set, and then you violate that nested set, or you find an example of something that violates it, which is probably where you were going with the platypus example, expecting me to think that that was a violation of the nested hierarchy.
No, I'm curious what it evolved from.
A mammal.
That's not an answer, did it? You said it had a common ancestor with the dragonfly.
It is an answer, actually.
You said it had a common ancestor with the dragonfly. Give me an example of something that's half dragonfly, half platypus.
See, there you're just being disingenuous, because you know that that's not what anybody's proposing, because platypus and, say, human beings share a more recent common ancestor with each other than either does with the dragonfly, so there cannot be, in the evolutionary theory, a half platypus, half dragonfly. So you just don't understand what people are asking. You just don't understand the theory, and you're being disingenuous. Because if you understood it, Kent, you would never ask for a half platypus, half dragonfly, because where the heck did all the other mammals come from?
I understand it much better than you realize, and much better than you do.
No, actually, you don't, because...
well, 1 second, Martin. How do you come to the conclusion that two things are related simply because they have similar properties?
It's not about similarity.
That's what you just said. You were mentioning how the dragonfly and the platypus both contain eukaryotic cells, and they're both...
And it's about a nested hierarchy. Okay.
Yeah, so how do you come to the conclusion that just because they have similarities, therefore they're related?
Okay, do you agree that there's at least a nested hierarchy that we can distribute forms into?
You can create one if you want.
No, but do you agree that there's one that... I mean,
I can create... If you give me a bunch of skulls...
Linnaeus was a creationist, and
Hold on a second. If you give me, that doesn't necessarily mean this is a nested hierarchy by which they descended.
Okay.
If you give me a bunch of skulls, larger or smaller, I can organize them in any... That's one.
All right, folks. Welcome back to the final segment of the Creation Science Hour. It's April 19th of 05, and this is Kent Hovind and Jonathan Sampson at Creation Science Evangelism. DrDino.com is the website. Dr. Dino Live is the AOL Instant Message screen name if you want to get in. And we have Martin still on the phone, I believe. Right, Martin?
Yep, that's right.
Good. So you're from Sweden, and you're living in Canada, and you believe...
No, I'm from Canada, living in Sweden.
Oh, you're from Canada, living in Sweden?
Yep.
You're calling from Sweden?
Yep, I'm actually calling from Linnaeus' hometown.
That's got to be 2 in the morning over there.
Nope, it's only 1:45.
1:45, okay.
Yeah.
Missed it by an hour. Well, let's see. So you believe dragonflies and platypus have a common ancestor because they're bilaterally similar?
Yes, but it is not a unique common ancestor. This is the important part, okay? It's a common ancestor shared with other things that are triploblastic, multicellular, eukaryotic, bilaterally symmetric organisms.
Right. Now, is this what you believe about them having a common ancestor? Is this something? Is this something that can be demonstrated empirically, or just something that can be taken as theoretical?
Yeah, I think it can be demonstrated actually.
So you don't see that as a religious belief. You see that as a
no, I don't, because I don't think things that you can't actually see necessarily require faith any more than I require faith in believing that there are electrons that are right now operating inside my computer, or that there are stars very far that I cannot
you're
see
using
right
a physical analogy you wouldn't let me do that a few minutes ago.
Because I'm not making an analogy to specific living things. No, I'm not. I'm making an analogy to your argument where you're saying that if I can't see it, then therefore it's not scientific, or that it's faith-based. But that's absolutely ridiculous. That's an anti-scientific statement. Because science, the purpose of science, is to find out about things we cannot see, that we cannot directly observe. That's why we do science. Okay?
Oh, I agree.
So then how come you can't agree that a common ancestor is something that we can learn about even if we can't actually see who it is or find it?
It's something you can believe in.
No, it's something we can test.
You cannot test that a dragonfly and a platypus have a common ancestor.
Sure, you're trying to do it with me all night tonight.
Well,
you're trying to test it. I mean, whenever I say something, when I try to demonstrate that there's a nested hierarchy, you try to bust it down. That's testing it.
Well, okay, let's test my hierarchy then. Cars and filing cabinets are related.
Yeah, but cars don't reproduce, so they can't have common ancestors. It's an irrelevant question.
Well, platypus have they reproduce, and they always produce platypus.
That's so stupid, Kent. I'm sorry, but
you believe
you just made that up to get around my point. I mean,
no.
That's absolutely hilarious.
I'm correct. Platypus have always, as far as anybody knows, produced platypus.
Yep, that's right.
Well, let's take dogs, which people are more familiar with.
Oh yeah, you got to use dogs.
Okay, well, people are more familiar with that.
Yeah.
There have been selective breeding of dogs going on for thousands of years.
Sure.
We've developed a wide range of strange-looking ones, from the Chihuahua to the Great Dane.
Yep.
But they're still dogs.
Yep.
They're still interfertile.
Yep.
They're still recognizable by a 5-year-old as a dog.
Yep.
And yet you believe the dog, somewhere in the past, long ago and far away, was something akin to a dragonfly or a platypus or...
No, it's not akin to, if by which you mean looked like a platypus or
descended
looked like
from.
a dog.
You believe it descended from something that was common ancestor to all these living things.
Right.
Right there is where you jump way out of science and into faith.
Nope. I'm sorry, that's not true, actually, because I can test that. You could show that a dog has more in common with something else, or is so incredibly unique in its cellular and molecular system that it could not in any way, shape, or form have a common ancestor with a dragonfly or a platypus. But the fact is, why is a dog and a mammal, why is a dog and a platypus, why are they both mammals? Why? For what reason are they both mammals? What forces the Creator to make them both mammals?
You told me you're in Linnaeus' hometown.
Yep.
Okay. He's the one that set up our classification system.
Yep. I'm glad
it's been modified a bunch since then, but still, basic idea is pretty similar.
Yes.
We could classify things all we wanted.
Not really, actually, because he was pretty certain that there was a natural order to things that he was determining.
Okay,
and this is something we tend to agree with today.
What? Right. Was Linnaeus a pretty smart scientist?
Yeah, he was a pretty clever guy.
Did he believe in creation?
Yeah, he sure did.
Okay, why don't you?
Because I don't think there's anything to support it.
So you think he was wrong?
Yes, he was wrong.
But he was right to classify dogs and platypus both as mammals, but he was wrong to believe there must have been a designer for this.
No, I don't think he was wrong to believe that. I think he had some good reasons for that. Of course, he lived in pre-Darwinian times, so he didn't have Darwin's theory of evolution to explain this.
I know.
Do you accept Linnaeus' classification?
Yeah, Darwin's theory sure messed up a lot of... Darwin's theory ruined a lot of science, in my opinion. It made people
that's fine. That's fine, but I mean, you can't have people believing in a theory of atoms before there's a theory of atoms to exist. I mean...
No, there was people believe Darwin's grandfather wrote most of the stuff.
Oh, yeah, but that wasn't Darwin's theory of evolution. That's a very different theory.
He stole most of it from his
based on natural selection. It wasn't based on common ancestry. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the issue of common ancestry, and common ancestry is based on the notion of nested sets. And that nested set pattern is derived from Linnaeus' classification, okay? And a nested pattern, okay, is the mathematically necessary consequence of any branching process.
I don't understand how you don't see that that's religion and a faith. How can I explain
because it can be tested, because we know if there is a branching process going on, that if there is, then we should expect to see this nested hierarchy. That if there is no nested hierarchy, or if we can find violations of the nested hierarchy, you test the theory.
Okay, there's an article came out in a recent science magazine about, I'm going to look it up here as we speak, about amoeba having 5 times more DNA than mammals.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's got the largest genome of any eukaryote.
Okay. Why would an amoeba have 5 times more DNA than a mammal?
Why not? What stops
That's not an answer.
No, I mean, I don't see what this question has to do with common ancestry, or how common ancestry is untestable. You're just dragging the point up, trying to get me to explain genomics, and I'm not trying to explain genomics. I'm trying to explain common ancestry to you and why scientists think it's actually a credible